Hello and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest is a natural-born healer. He became a pharmacist with a strong desire to help people live a full, healthy life. In those years, he saw firsthand just how ineffective and even damaging pharmaceutical drugs can be. The stress and overwhelm caused by this realization led him to become a patient of stress-related depression and ulcerative colitis. That is when he embarked on a journey of profound self-healing. Today, he lives his life totally healthy and symptom-free thanks to his unique breathwork exercises he created, which combine all of the ancient wisdom of pranayama with modern-day science. He has built a supportive and empowering online community of thousands who encourage each other to live their best lives, whatever that looks like for them. He has helped people turn their lives around in many different ways. He has been featured in articles from news outlets around the world such as Forbes, CNN, The Guardian, HuffPost, and his mega viral Coca-Cola infographic. He has also appeared at events like Mind Valley City Campus and Vision Festival and on renowned podcasts. Welcome back to the show, my friend, Niraj Naik.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Brother. All right.
It's good to see you.
Great to be back. Yeah, man. It was great fun last time. It was great fun.
Oh, absolutely,
right.
Dude. I'll tell you right away. It's kind of funny because I had a comment on there. You know, you talked about your healing on our last episode, and we've been friends ever since. Your story is extraordinary, and how messed up you were was really bad. And somebody commented in the YouTube comments are like, Matt, how come you're laughing? Because you're describing yourself in just a horrendous thing, and you're describing, and I'm kind of like laughing, and they're like, why are you laughing? I was like, I don't know. I was like, it just sounds so terrible. He's okay now, but I'm just imagining, like just the worst of the worst. And yeah, it's like, he's okay now, but holy crap, man, you were in a rough place. And
I think it was the shitting blood 40 times a day that probably made you laugh.
Yeah, it was so awful, man. And if you can come back from something like that, and, now you're symptom free, you went down the traditional, let's say, medical path or the Western path of, this is the way that we understand healing and health. And all of a sudden you're in a position where you need to repair your body because it is so broken, and you move in a different way. You figure that out in a different way that's non-traditional. That wasn't what you were trained to do. That wasn't what you were used to. You had to kind of relearn that information so you could get better, because what you knew wasn't working and you needed to figure something out. So why don't you just share a little bit about your background first? And then I know we're going to talk about a lot of things today. We've had a lot of private discussions, the difference between pharmaceutical drugs and like natural healing or alternative healing that might work. A little bit about coronavirus, a little bit about enlightenment and programming, and kind of navigating what's happening in the world today, because everything is changing so quickly. You and I are communicating, and almost every day there's a new piece of information we're trying to sort out and distill so we can make better decisions in our lives, so we can stay healthy, but really be aware of what's going on in our own community, know what the truth is, and stay vigilant. So I'm gonna stop talking and welcome you to the show, man.
It's absolute pleasure. So yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to make a misunderstanding about. I'm not like anti-drugs or anything like that, or anti-vaccines or anything like that. What I am very into is the integration of using modern medicine with complementary, natural, and holistic approaches, and not basically becoming devising. What I've found in the world right now is the world becomes so polarized. And I want to bring peace to all industries, okay? Because I think everything has a place. So I'm a pharmacist. I worked in community pharmacy, and I went down the route of Ayurvedic treatment for my condition. I had ulcerative colitis. I also was trained in Pranayama, and which is the system of breathing techniques, controlling energy in the body, and also yoga. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But basically, what I want to make clear is that there is a place, even in Ayurveda, for medication, for drugs, okay? but they are a last resort. They shouldn't be the only treatment that you give someone, and it shouldn't be front line. You should try and do everything you can, possibly, before you cause any harm to a patient. Hippocrates, who every doctor has to swear the oath on, says, first do no harm. It's a Hippocratic oath, the father of medicine. First do no harm, okay? Also, another one of his quotes was, let food be thy medicine. Okay, let medicine be thy food, all right? And another very interesting quote, which not many people know, is never make profit in the sick room, right? And actually doctors swear by this oath. The idea is that you shouldn't be making profit out of sickness, out of disease, okay? So here's the thing. So medicine has a place. The place for it is in emergency last resorts, and also in terms of acute infection. That's one thing medicine did great wonders with, okay? Which is, like, say you get like a rare tropical disease. In some cases, bacterial drugs, antibacterial drugs can be amazing for treating that. It can save people's lives. You know, there are certain things that hospitals do, doctors do, that's like miracles. You have a bike accident in Koh Phangan, you know, I will definitely go to the hospital and get that checked out, rather than going to the Reiki angel crystal healer. Do you know what I mean? Who also is on Koh Phangan, where I live in Thailand. So, you know, there's a time and place. Let's not like create a war. I don't want to create a war. I'm all about bringing everyone together and let's work as a unit. Let's work together. Let's not divide. Like what I'm seeing on the internet right now is so much division. Okay. So actually that started, the division started at a point in time. It started with what is known as the Flexner Report. Okay. And not many people know about this, but in the 1904, very early on, last century, there's a guy called Flexner, who was brought in by the Carnegie Foundation, which is a charitable philanthropic foundation that was responsible for creating the educational system. It was one of the founders of the educational system we have today. And what the Flexner Report did was it went into all of the universities to create a standardization around healthcare, right, and the medical profession. What happened was, and this is straight from Wikipedia, you can look this up, this is not some conspiracy site or anything like that, okay? The report, I'll just read it now. Let's just get that bit I was about to say.
You can screen share it too if you want. So it's Flexner, Flexner.
Yeah, that's it. So the report talked about the need for revamping and centralizing medical institutions. The idea was to create strict protocols for mainstream science in teaching and research. And many American medical schools fell short of the standard advocated in the Flexner Report. And subsequent to its publication, nearly half of such schools merged or were closed outright, right? Homeopathy, traditional osteopathy, eclectic medicine, physiomedicalism, things like that were derided. And some doctors were even jailed, right? Okay. Now, if you could scroll down, if you go right down, okay, it talks about impact on alternative medicine. And osteopathic medicine, chiropractic medicine, naturopathy, homeopathy were basically shut down, okay? And it says here, right here, any approach to medicine that did not advocate the use of treatments such as vaccines to prevent and cure illness was tantamount to quackery and charlatanism, okay? So a few schools resisted, but eventually most complied with the report or shut down their doors. All right, so this is when the first division happened. The first war happened between institution versus independent medical doctors. To the point where medicine started to become standardized, education became standardized, and then a system was brought in, which ruled out anything that wasn't towards, vaccines to prevent and cure illness and other pharmaceutical drugs and things like that. I'm not going to go too into this. I don't want to. This is not conspiracy theory. This is just history, right? And also, if you want to really read a book that goes into the history of pharmacy, then read Pharmageddon. Okay, it's a book by check it out. It's an English psychiatrist. I forget his name. David Healy, very famous doctor. David Healy talks all about it. Okay, he goes into this much more. He's way more qualified to speak on his subject. Also, one of India's top doctors, Dr. B.M. Hegde, much more qualified than me. He's like the award winner of the highest accolades in medical science in India.
What's his
and
name?
He has
Can you spell
Dr.
it?
B.M. Hegde, Hegde. He's an amazing doctor, cardiac surgeon, extremely influential and very inspirational in India. So,
well, I want to jump in real quick just because, you're sharing this information, and a lot of the stuff, because when this was first happening, I was asking you and, some questions, and you were sending me a lot of reports. I'll say, you're an amazing researcher. You understand how to read the literature. You understand how to dive deep. When I had Dr. Kaufman on, Dr. Andy Kaufman, who's going to be on London Real today. So yeah, man.
Nice.
Kelly Brogan, Dr. Kelly Brogan, Dr. Bear Lando on. What Dr. Andy Kaufman was saying was that if you read the reports, right, of what they say in medical school, and you got to go back to kind of, hear his own words, but the title might be misleading for what the actual report, if you go all the way down the report says, it won't mean what it says. And that's something that they use in law, right? Law, when I went to school for law and security, and all I basically learned was like, oh, this isn't straightforward. This is kind of like a system that, manipulates you a little bit because you don't understand what you're even saying. You don't even understand admiralty law. You don't understand any of this stuff. I went to school for it only a little bit, and I didn't understand it, but I've looked at this stuff. But what you're saying and what I read and what I interpret from what you just shared there was a time when, we had an institution, which was it the Rockefellers or?
Yeah, and Carnegie, they all were like a club.
Okay, yeah. So, they want to standardize things, and then the word that you used there was it made anything natural quackery and charlatanism, and we're seeing that right now. And if you say something that goes against what the media might say, which is it's owned by 6 companies, we know that. You can find that out. You can see these 6 companies have a lot of influence in that. But what I wanted to bring up was, how old is Ayurveda? How old is Ayurvedic medicine? How old is that medicine of like Hippocrates saying, let thy food be thy medicine? Like that is much older. And that is, there's a lot of natural healing that have been, like when I went to China, for example, that's just a standard of how they, not everywhere, but when I was training with the Shaolin monks, they understood all this stuff that, it kind of like terrain medicine versus germ theory. And so there's these schools of thought that deserve research and respect. And I like what you said is like, it's not about saying, hey, there's no room for that. Like if I go break my arm, please take me to the ER, get all the medicine, give me all the drugs, give me all the thing. I don't want to feel this. Hook me up. But when we're looking at other things like, your ulcerative colitis, we're looking at all these other diseases from stress related, from, all that other stuff. You got to look at like, what is the person doing? Even cancer, I've had a lot of guests on that have made full recoveries from having cancer. And you know what all of them say one of those fundamentals are? They decreased stress in their life. That was a big thing. They started to focus on more what they liked, what they enjoyed. They changed their diet. They had exercise, and they had a mindfulness practice. All of those things encompass that, because if you're going around super stressed out, you have a super terrible diet. Like one of the doctors I had, Dr. Diva Nagula was on, and this is a great example of what I think you're sharing in a way. Dr. Diva Nagula was just on my podcast. He thought he was healthy. Wasn't. Eating terrible food, super stressed out, working hard, gets diagnosed with cancer. When he goes to another doctor for treatment, the first thing that doctor recommends is the most aggressive form of chemotherapy possible. It doesn't mean that maybe that doctor felt like, maybe he thought that was the best thing. He got 2 other recommendations. 2 other doctors said, you don't need that. That's not where you are right now. There might come a time where you need that. You don't need that right now. You can go another route. Come to find out that that doctor had a vested financial interest in chemotherapy. And so
That's the problem.
And so when you said that Hippocrates quote, I never heard, don't profit from the medicine. That's
don't profit in the sick room. Never profit in the sick room.
And so now coming out of like the ventilator thing in the hospitals in New York, things like that, there's a lot of reports saying, hey, the hospitals are benefiting if you get diagnosed with the COVID-19 death, and they're also getting even more money if you use a ventilator. And nurses have been speaking out. This isn't, again, the problem with Dr. Belair put it well, is like conspiracy was a word to discredit any information that went against, the mainstream narrative. But these nurses are speaking out saying people are dying because you don't want to always do the ventilator. The ventilator is good when it's needed, but if you use it too quickly, it's actually can cause harm. And that's what they're experiencing in New York right now as a part of everything going on. And they're speaking out at their own risk. They're speaking out and saying, hey, this is our own risk. So I just wanted to bring all that to light because I know in your world, you're respected for what you do and what you know. But if you, even in your own network, share something that is not against the against the mainstream, you're actually directly attacked. You're a lot more influential than me. You're a lot more accredited than me. I'm just a bearded fool who interviews smart people. I can say whatever I want. And so
I've been threatened by a lawyer to have my entire business shut down.
Yeah. And that's crazy.
For saying one thing that they didn't agree with. That's how politicalized it's become.
Yeah. And so that's another thing I know we're going to talk about a lot, but freedom of speech is such an important thing. And you and I have seen a very, very quick increase in the destruction of freedom of speech. When I lived in China, they had no Facebook, they had no YouTube. They were afraid to talk about politics or religion. They would literally almost like if I would bring something up and ask a question that I was curious about, the translator would almost literally shake and run away. I kid you not. She had a physical response to the question because of the fear she had. So right now we're having, Facebook fact check is a thing. Like your business, Dr. Kelly Brogan was on. She got hit with, the new algorithms of YouTube and Google basically shut down. You had that experience. I had that experience. Joe from Collective Evolution had that experience. And if I look at all of you guys as individuals and your characters, you're good people trying to figure out what's going on. And Kelly Brogan kind of said on the podcast, she's like, when I was recommending all these pharmaceutical drugs and things for psychiatric patients, I was the same person I was now, and I wanted to help them. I just learned more information for more effective ways that I could help them, that I didn't need to use those things because I was observing the results that I was getting. And my goal was to help them heal. And I just found a better solution. Not saying that this is all wrong. I'm just saying that is something that wasn't as useful. And when you bring the dollars and cents to it, that's when you kind of look up and up and up at what kind of legislation is happening, what kind of influence is influencing the hospitals, the doctors, the institutions, just to make sure that the healthcare is being put first and the most effective systems are being put first. And I think that's what, a lot of people are trying to get out now, is saying, hey, we do have other forms here. So I'm going to stop talking and get you to chime in.
No, you're totally spot on. Yeah. So that's the problem that we've got, is the basically the witch hunt on anything that doesn't fit the one-sided approach of using medication or surgery, expensive stuff that costs a lot of money, that has patents. It's a business, man. It's a business. People want to make money. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where there is profit being made in the sick room. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to like attack them and fight them. And, you know, when you fight fire with fire, you just get more fire. No. What we have to do is look at ways to create more choice and not create laws that rules out research into alternatives. We need to find ways to get funding to fund credible research for natural medicine, you know, for things that you can't patent. We need more philanthropic endeavors from people who have got influence and finance and money to do good. I don't know how we're going to do it, but that's the only way we're going to solve this is if we create a new system, or create a system within the system which allows, because all the laws are there, you know, if you have the right lawyers behind you, I'm sure we can find a way to get good, compelling research done on things. Like Wim Hof is a friend of mine. He's done research on himself, and you know, he's done small anecdotal research. Okay, it's not like a full-blown clinical trial. They cost literally millions of dollars. So what we need to do is find a way to bring down the cost of medical research, bring down the cost of trials. Because I do believe that there still needs to be a trial. Like, we shouldn't just allow charlatans onto the market either. We shouldn't, there is, you know, I've been in that world where there's all kinds of weird quackery out there. And maybe there was a reason for Flexner to do that at that time. Who knows? There may have been people selling all kinds of voodoo at that time, and actually causing damage. And maybe there was a good intention to standardize healthcare at that point. However, inevitably, human nature is, you know, more power comes more power, and then consolidated power, and then corruption sets in. It's just the laws of nature. It's how it happens. So, you know, so there is going to be a time where we have to question, like, are we doing the right thing for our patients? And that's going to have to come from the doctors themselves and the pharmacists. They need to think deeply and go deep within and ask themselves a question: am I waking up every day enthusiastic about doing my job? If I'm waking up feeling miserable, like I have to do this as a chore, what's going to happen to that doctor? Because I'm that guy, I was that person, I was a pharmacist, is that they're going to get chronically stressed. And you know what happens to people who get chronically stressed when you wake up miserable, apathetic, hating your life? The reason I wear a t-shirt that says I love my life, because there was a time when I didn't. I hated my life every day. And what happens is depression kicks in. And the pain of that hell that you create for yourself is worse than any jail sentence, any fucking prison term, any you know, any other way to go out is going to be better than living in a living hell that you've created, where you're doing a job that you don't want to do every single day because you're miserable, because you know you're doing disservice to your patient. And that's happening more and more. I feel that that's more and more doctors and pharmacists are starting to really question, why are we doing what we're doing? Are we really doing the best for our patients, or is there a better way? And that's the next snowball effect I'm seeing is going to have to happen for things to change. However, there are now, you know, like, America's pretty cool. Like, actually, I have like many doctor friends there who are functional doctors, they're naturopaths, and people that have a choice, you know. They can go to and get different treatments, you know. They don't have to be standard. They're not standardized and institutionalized as they are in other places, where you have a welfare system, a state-run healthcare system. Then the problem comes in, where you're dictated to which kind of treatment you get, right? So what's happening more and more, I think, is more and more anecdotal research is coming out, more and more evidence coming out from these lifestyle treatments, alternatives like Ayurveda. There's a worldwide thing now. There's hospitals all over the world doing independent studies. And I think we're going through that period where we're going to evolve. If we don't, then it's going to get really insane.
Well, you brought up a lot of great points there, and I love the idea of, you know, like self-healing, right? And the power of our own bodies to heal. And what I've noticed from the coronavirus, and I don't know if you, I had a couple articles come up, but I want to find a more grounded and updated source. But it found that in the one anyway, that it was 99% plus of the people that had died had other illnesses. So they had, like, you know, they had cancer, or they had depleted immune system, or whatever it was. There was all these other things. And then the coronavirus kind of finished them off, right? And so then it was a coronavirus death. The thing that I find shocking is that, you know, even on the, when they said it was a 2%, right? 2% mortality for the, which is higher. That's 2 out of every 100. And again, you're probably going to be old, you know, it was 80 plus was the more vulnerable age. And usually there was other factors. What I find shocking is that really young and healthy people are worried. And we just showed, you know, I was like, you know, okay, yeah, you want to be cautious if you want to do the 6-foot thing, if you want to do all that, that's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with taking away freedom of speech and censorship, which I see happening very rapidly. I have a problem with the talk of forced vaccinations, which is happening openly. And you can look at it, and you can, why is Bill Gates, you know, the front and center, whatever you believe about him, just look at what he's saying. I just don't want to do that. I don't think we need to vaccinate the whole planet. If you want to do that, that's great. But I'd like to have sovereignty over my own health. And I like the idea of kind of what you're sharing, and what Wim Hof is kind of about, is that our bodies have the power to heal, you know. And I think you brought up a really great point, because on the other side of this, they say, oh, you know, this is quackery or charlatanism. There is some of that out there too. There's a hilarious sketch by Mitchell and Webb. I don't know if you've seen it, but they bring somebody in the ER, and they've got like all these different things, and he like kills every single one of his patients with like frankincense and stuff like that. He's like, oh, why do I even do this when I lose every single patient? You know, it's hilarious. And it's true though. There's certain medicines you want for certain times, but overall, if you are strong, if you are healthy, if your mind is right, if you have a good diet, your body should be functioning to heal off most of this stuff, right? And, you know, I remember, you know, I'm not a regular human by any means, but one of my former girlfriends, she had the swine flu, you know, when that came out. And she goes, do you want me to sleep in another bed? I was like, no, I told you. I was like, I don't get sick. And so I ended up giving her like a big kiss, and, you know, just was in the bed, and she was really ill for a while. But it's my belief system. Not that I can't get sick. Of course I can. But in 12, 13 years, I've been ill a few times, because I started to understand the psychology. I started to understand self-healing. I started to understand all of these other elements of using consciousness and positive thinking and all that kind of stuff, which seems so far out there, but it actually works when you begin to use it, and you have a meditation practice, you have these other things. It doesn't make it guaranteed, but it increases the likelihood very much. And I'll give you one example. I was on the chairlift in New Zealand when I was running snowboard camps, and somebody was on the chairlift with me. He's a very good snowboard instructor. And he says, hey man, I'm getting sick. You might want to, you know, watch out. I was like, no, it's all right, man. I'm like, I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff. I was like, you know, rather than say I'm getting sick, just say I'm completely healthy, and start to visualize that and change your internal dialogue, because I'll wake up with a sore throat sometimes, but I'll just say I'm perfectly healthy. I do the exact same thing, and I kind of command my body. Well, the next day he comes back and he goes, hey man, he goes, I'm not all completely better, but I thought I was going to be sick for a week, and now I'm about better. And the next day he goes, I'm better. And it was literally just a change in thinking to invoke the power of our consciousness and our own healing. It doesn't say if I get hit by a car, I'm going to use positive thinking. I'm going to say, go get an ambulance. Give me all of the drugs right now, please, because I'm in pain and this sucks. But in that healing room, kind of like what you did and what Bruce Lee did and what Wim Hof is talking about when they got him to inject him with an illness or whatever disease or whatever that test was, he's saying, I can influence my body. I trust my body to create healing within this. And this is a part of it. And Ayurveda and all that stuff, you know a lot more than me, is saying the food you eat has healing properties. You know, what you think, there's healing properties, the stress and all these kind of different things. So they're equally, if not more important. And if you live, the body is so, amazing, because you look at these healthy or these lifestyles in the States that are not healthy, people 300 or 400 pounds, you know, and they get some kind of illness, but they're eating the worst food that's not even food, so much sugar, so much of this other stuff, but they're still living and their body's still adaptable. What happens if you switch it to the other side and you start eating, you know, things that are good for you? I had Dr. Henry Morse on, and he has had fantastic results with people with really severe illnesses, sometimes massive tumors. And the first thing he goes to is food. And I asked him a question. I said, what if they're like basically just about to die? What do you give them? And he goes, 40 days of grapes. I was like, that's it? He's like, yep, that's it. 40 days of grapes. And that was his answer immediately. And that's just a food. That's not anything crazy. And he's had fantastic results on that in many of his patients.
If you go to like the now infamous WHO website and you look at what they say about sanitation and health, hygiene and health, they tell you themselves how much of an impact food, nutrition, sanitation, and hygiene has on diseases and health. Like, incredible. You could just, if you just type in like sanitation, like just literally having clean water, right? And you just type in sanitation and PubMed, right, on diseases. PubMed is where you get all of the kind of studies that are published. You'll just see that they clearly say how massive an impact it is. It's so important. It's like fundamental. Clean water, sanitation, hygiene, food, nutrition. All of these things doesn't involve harm. Like, there's no risk with giving somebody clean water and giving them food and giving them shelter and electricity and all that. There's no risk to their health. Only positive things can happen. Problem with drugs and pharmacy and pharmaceuticals, this is the problem. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be used because of this. Okay, there's a time and place, as I said. Whenever you put something foreign into the body, a chemical, okay, so a drug is a chemical. It is subjected to the first past effect. What that means is that the body gets confused. It's like, what is this? And it shoves it straight into the liver. And it goes straight to the liver before it goes anywhere else, okay? Over time, when you have lots of chemicals in your system, and this goes for chemicals in food, chemicals in your water, you know, any chemicals, not just drugs, it overloads the liver. Now we have a pandemic of something else. It's called non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver. So, you know, actually cirrhosis of the liver is more commonly caused by alcoholism, which is actually a much bigger killer than anything else in the world, all right? Like, heart disease is like way up there. In the top 5 is medical intervention, believe it or not, prescription medications. But then you've got, and actually non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver is a side effect of that. And then you've got things like alcoholism. Alcohol is a massive killer in the world, right? So basically that usually is what was known for creating cirrhosis of the liver. But now we've got this pandemic of where the fatty liver is caused by taking chemicals, right, into the system. Because when I was a pharmacist, I was giving out shopping bags of drugs to people, right? It wasn't uncommon, right? People were literally rattling. We used to have a joke like, oh, this guy is, Mr. Simons over here is like rattling when he walks in, because you see the list of prescriptions he has to take. Insane. So this is the problem now. It's like, it's too easy. It's too easy for a doctor to sit there, write out a prescription, than to actually give medical advice. It's just so much easier to go, it's like, get out. They only have like 5 minutes anyway. That's the big problem. They only have like 5 minutes with the patient. So how can you deliver effective lifestyle advice? So it goes to the nurses, and then the nurses don't have much time either. They're so overwhelmed. You know, so these are the things that need to change. These are inherent. This is what I felt in the pharmacy was the problem. So what I did was I tried to spend some time in the day with patients who are on lots of medications to actually talk, and we were actually encouraged. And okay, so look, let's not completely bash the healthcare system. I just think it's not even the system, it's people are too easily victims of their own laziness, okay? Like people in power and professional people. Because I actually went out my way to do research, to find out what are ways I can help my patients without them just being dependent on drugs. And then I'd get people off the medication slowly. And I do it with the doctor, and the doctor loved what I was doing. This way we're avoiding people from getting all sorts of side effects, which was a good thing. You know, it's a really good thing for patients. But most pharmacists won't do that. They won't do that bit of extra work because either they're just so overwhelmed, they're tired, they simply haven't got the education, they're not bothered. I don't know, there's so many reasons. So the educational system needs to change. We need more support for the system itself to encourage people to use the system as it's been developed. In England, there isn't like, well, when I was working there, a complete outlaw to complementary stuff. In fact, it's more and more encouraged now, holistic treatments, and more encouraged in England than they were before. So they are open, except for when this comes along, like an actual acute infection, all right, like a virus. Then everything goes towards the thing that we supposedly know is meant to be best to treat this, and that is a vaccine. But then vaccines take years to develop, like to really get safe, effective vaccines onto the market. Also takes a long time. So what we're going to do before, I'm not anti-vaccines, man. I mean, if you can give me 100% safe vaccine that is doesn't have any side effects, is effective, it does the job, right? I'm all for it. Okay, but we have to get to that point in a very methodical and ethical way to really be confirmed that. Okay, you can't rush things out like onto the market in a panic because that can cause more harm than the problem, right? But what are we going to do before we get to that point? So there are other things we can do. So let's look at just the immune system itself and how it deals with viruses every single day. Every year there are coronaviruses, every year. Okay, these are not new things. There are every year different strains of coronavirus. We already know that. There are more deadly things as well, like flu is really freaking deadly, man. It kills a lot of people every year, way more than what we've seen with coronavirus so far with this particular strain. And you know, then there's other things like pneumonia. Okay, pneumonia kills 3 million people every year. Okay, 3 million people die of pneumonia every year. So, and a lot of those cases come from hospitals, from people being elderly patients being admitted into hospitals. So there are always acute infections out there. It's like we're always battling with a microbial threat to our immune system. And our immune system is really clever, all right? It can take a lot of shit, all right? You throw in, you know, a hardcore virus and it will figure out a way to create antibodies itself and create immunity and do its job, and then it will protect you. And the great thing with that is that you get this herd immunity. So when enough people start getting immune, natural immunity, it starts passing on. And you create this thing called herd immunity, like Sweden right now. Sweden's demonstrating this, okay? So, you know, they didn't have a lockdown, they didn't quarantine in a crazy way like we have, but they developed this natural immunity. Okay, so we're watching that still to see how that goes, but it seems to be going all right, okay?
I think that's fake news now.
Oh.
We'll keep going. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
If you're trying to avoid that, you're all the way in because you said herd immunity, bud. So you're doing good till there.
All right. Well, whatever, man. You know, I'm innocent until proven guilty. So the thing is, we can develop natural immunity. We do it all the time. Okay, we are getting viruses, bugs, microbes all the time. coming into our system, and the body adapts, it deals with it until you get immunocompromised. Now, what that means is where the immune system has been kind of compromised in some way. And that usually is because you are living a lifestyle that creates that. Okay? So some people are born with immunodeficiency. So they're born with it. They have some genetic issue. They were born in a challenging circumstance, and they have some birth trauma that developed that. So there's all these other reasons, okay? But for most people, generally, if your immune system goes down, okay, and most people can observe this, like when they've been through a period of stress, maybe they even had just broken up with their in a relationship, or they just lost their job, suddenly they get sick, or maybe they went on a serious bender and didn't sleep for 3 days and came home, came back and then got, the flu suddenly for a week. We've all been there. So we know what it's like to mess up our immune systems. We all talk about it, we joke about it, and lack of sleep is a big factor. Not eating the right foods, drinking a lot of alcohol, prescription medications can affect your immune system, side effects of them. They have to put that on their packets, smoking, excessive smoking, all of that kind of stuff affects your immune system. So, but actually your immune system is designed to protect you, and we can handle a lot of stuff. And when we're younger, we tend to get sick for a bit. We get sick more often. You notice that babies, they have fevers more often. They get sick more often. You've got a child right now, right? Well, do you notice they get flus or feverish?
Not yet. She's only 8 months.
Oh, she's 8 months. Okay. So yeah, in the next few months, you might start getting fevers and stuff. Like we have a little baby we're looking after here with my business partner, Gary, and he gets crazy fevers sometimes, much more often than we do. It's just how we are. Like as we're young, the immune system is very intelligent. It starts building up these antibodies and immunoresponses. So what my point always was why not spend more time, money, and research into helping people's immune systems, right? Ultimately, what a vaccine is that's what it's trying to do. What a vaccine is supposed to do is go in there and make your body create an immune response and create antibodies to that immune response, and therefore then you are protected. Now, this is good for like rare acute infections. It did a good job in, there is some evidence, we've seen with things like polio, measles, stuff like that, right? But when it comes to viruses like coronavirus or flus, the problem with them, and this can be challenged, I'm open to debate on this, is that they change all the time. There's so many different strains. They mutate all the time. So it's really hard, I think, to vaccinate for them every single year and be effective. And that's shown, like, for flu vaccines, only 40 to 60% effective, okay? So when it goes down that road, it's like, wait a minute, we can easily protect ourselves against flu. The results show themselves right now that most people who get sick from this coronavirus and other coronaviruses and flus and stuff are people who are obese, they have diabetes, they have heart disease, they're immunocompromised. They've compromised immune systems. However, if we can aid their immune system, right, through giving like everybody vitamin C shots or supplies of vitamin C or other things that are known to boost the immune system, educating people on things that they can do at home, like exercise, proper exercise, breathing techniques, like what we talk about, yoga techniques. There are so many things we can do actually that are like prevention by aiding the immune system. And I'm all for that. I'm like, why not let's focus? I don't see that anywhere in the mainstream media. Like no one's talking about things we can do to aid the immune system naturally. No one's talking about it. In fact, if you do, you get kind of shut down. So this is what like shocks me. It's like we're getting too like narrow focused on one thing. That's when that opens the doors to conspiracy theories. That opens the doors to, oh, there's an agenda. Why are we just focused on vaccines? When we're ignoring all these other things? When Bill Bryan, was it? He did a whole talk on the White House conference about UV, sunlight, and all of these things that they've shown. And there's even a machine called by this pharmaceutical lab that uses UV injection. Like you put the UV in, it shines light through you. This is actually a thing going through clinical trial right now. There's no joke. This stuff works. There's something called ultraviolet radiation therapy as well. So these are meant for critical cases, right? Not for everyday use. But there is also on the Columbia website that I saw that there's UV machines. Let me show you this one. I'll send you a link to this. This is a really interesting one. Let me put it in here. Where we could, because UV light has been shown to be so effective, right? That these special devices in your homes could actually, I'll send it to you right now, so you might want to screen share it. Could actually be very effective devices for prevention. So what's going on here, which is really cool, is that because of all of this, and people are now starting to question reality a bit more, and the status quo, is that there is already all this research out there that's starting to rise to the surface based on sound, solid scientific. We're not talking about putting crystals in a room and praying to Ganesha or anything like that. No, we're talking about real credible things like sunlight has been shown. Now, this is like getting pretty conclusive to fight viruses in general, right? Sunlight. So look at this.
Yeah, this is what you sent me. So yeah. I'll link this up in the show notes for people to check out. Well, yeah, and what you're saying here, for me, there's like a couple of themes I think are important. And one of them that I was trying to get at, and you kind of shared, was taking responsibility for your own health, right? Like that's what we need to do. We need to take responsibility for our own health care. And we have tools at our disposal, and a lot of them, and a lot of these ancient techniques like Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, things like that. It's like your body is the thing that you need to take care of. That thing is powerful. It fights off viruses naturally. That's what it's built to do. Your body is extraordinary. And so I'm hesitant when it's like, this is the outside thing that needs to save me or help me. If I need that outside thing, like in those circumstances, I'm so happy for modern medicine to help me, yes, please. But most of the time, I'm going to see what I can do, let my body, treat itself, because I want to take responsibility for my health. And I think that that's what a lot of people like myself and others are concerned about, is saying,
well, here's another thing.
Yeah.
So another thing that's really important is the lymphatic system. Okay, so the lymphatic system is, so you have the blood circulatory system, you have the lymphatic system. Now the lymphatic system can only move it's a pump as well. The only pump for it is movement. This is why exercise is so important, okay? And when you're all cooped up at home, and you're not doing anything, you're not moving. And this is the most important thing for your drainage of toxins, germs, and all this stuff out of your system, all right? Lymphatic drainage. So, so why are we not focusing a lot on getting people to move, exercise at home? Why aren't the government showing videos of people doing exercises that they can do while they're in quarantine right now, social isolation? These are the sort of, we know this. This is like evidence. It's known fact. Why are we not encouraging this? I don't see it anywhere in the media.
Yeah, and those are really those are really great points, because any doctor will tell you the same things, right? It's diet, exercise outdoor. They're doing studies in, I think it's Japan, like forest bathing, showing like just by getting outside in nature, it boosts your immune system. It's helpful.
Yeah.
But the parks are closed, and that's what I begin to question. I don't like that. And on the flip side of things, how do you create disease? You do it through stress. Are people stressed out? 100%. Why are they stressed out? Because they're probably going to lose their jobs. Is this thing, so their stress is high. Go outside, get some exercise, burn that off. Because if you're sitting at home getting stressed out all the time, you're probably going to weaken your immune system and you're going to get sick, because that's how sickness happens. We know that. That's how it works. But you can't go outside. You can't get sunlight. You can't associate with other people and feel safe. So you have a recipe for disease happening right now, which is supposed to prevent something that's saying, hey, this thing is so lethal. We're protecting all these other people, but modern science and common sense is showing like, okay, we can do some of those risk prevention things, but if we're shutting down the parks, if we're shutting down all these other things, the recipe for disease is now increasing. So what I think is going to happen from this, of what we've done, is we're going to get that second wave is going to be from what we tried to fix on this first wave to prevent. Now we're creating the recipe for disease. I'm stressed out and I still have my house and I still am kind of okay. What about the millions of people who are losing everything? They're going to freak out psychologically. Robert Kennedy just did a great post about, how disease and death and all that kind of stuff goes up with unemployment. So I don't know the right word for it, but like all these side effects of what's going to happen. We say, hey, we're going to prevent death of the coronavirus by doing this. Boom. Okay. That's your 1 point. And that's going to prevent so many deaths. Let's say 1,000, let's say 100,000 deaths or 200,000 deaths. Well, that preventative measure is going to create hundreds of thousands of real deaths through maybe a suggestion that wasn't spot on. Maybe they did the best they could and that's what they thought to do. And maybe that, they saved tons and tons of lives. But common sense says that, when millions of people are losing their jobs, they're at home, they're not allowed to go out. Domestic abuse is way up. Suicides are up. All these other diseases that are going to come from that are because of how we're designing this first one. And, Sweden didn't shut down. And some people are saying there's mixed information there, but, and it's hard to say in hindsight when you're looking at it, and it's not to knock what they're doing, but when I'm looking at like freedom of speech, getting attacked really vigorously, I start to question things again. Now they're, putting the Second Amendment in the States is guns, and now they're changing legislation on the guns, and now I get more skeptical. And then I look at the only place to get real information is the World Health Organization. You begin to research the World Health Organization and these financial vested interests. And that's why I'm skeptical of media too, because media is not independent. When I had physicist Tom Campbell on, really wise guy, talking about some of this stuff, he knows this stuff. He just said, media used to be the fourth estate, keeping everybody honest, you know what I mean? Doing proper independent research. But when you speak out, like a doctor, for example, Andy Kaufman lost his job immediately for speaking out on some of the information that he had. And, they said it was for something else, but he's like, I kind of know what that was for. And so if your whole livelihood is on the line and you're seeing something that like isn't quite right, and you have a family, now that I have a daughter, that's hard. I can do that as an independent person, right? And be like, yeah, I'm just going to take on the system and say what I'm, what my truth is. And that could be completely wrong. They're saying that those two doctors from California are, misinformation. We talked a little bit about that, but why would they do that? And if you look at their presentation, they're using public information that anybody can access and then doing the math on that. And they're just presenting their findings, not saying it means this and that. And then, the media is kind of attacking them. And so when it's so pushed to one side, it's that's what we're seeing. It's so pushed to one side with this polarization, and it's taking all the accountability off the person. And again, even if it's 2%, who are those 2%? They're immunocompromised. They're having really terrible lifestyles, all of those different things. But if they're saying, you know what, like I love what you said, you need to get out and exercise because we know that boosts your immune system. Hey, Niraj from Soma is going to show you a breath work that is, helps to boost the immune system and get you into, is it sympathetic versus parasympathetic? I always get them mixed.
It just makes you feel awesome.
Yeah, it makes you feel awesome, right? You know, it works, right? And we have you have a ton of data from doing this for years of
Yeah.
people having transformation. This isn't, you know, crap that doesn't work. It absolutely works. And it works with common sense. Having, you know, Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan on and her book, Super Wellness, all those simple things, breath, air, sunlight, diet, all of these simple things. And it's not what's being shown. It's saying, you know, this complete other narrative that's forgetting all of this stuff that is common sense to people who feel empowered. They feel their immune system strong. They've gone through something like you have, right? Where your body was completely ruined and you figured out how to, you know, empower it. And just like as a question, like, are you worried, like personally, about the coronavirus? Let's say if you got it, right? Would that worry you? Would you think that you're going to die?
Well, you know what? Like Wim Hof, the other day I saw he said like he would happily be injected with the coronavirus, make antibodies, and ship his antibodies to every single person.
Did he say that?
That is friggin' awesome.
Yeah, I would do that too. I've been telling that to my friends. I was like, I'll go into any of those things, you know, with everybody having it because I have a trust in my own body. It's because I'm looking at the information, and as scary as it is, none of that has any bearing on my body and what my body's capable of doing, because my immune system is very strong and I understand healing, I understand diet, I understand all of these things. So I don't have a fear of it because I'm doing all those other things. It would be some sort of crazy thing that would take me out, but they're not putting out a lot of evidence that says, you know, healthy people that have strong immune systems really need to be aware of this because, you know, you're going to die. And if you look at all the, they actually stopped testing. I just saw recently for the flu, I think, just a regular cold, they stopped testing now. And so there's just all these really things that are very interesting that we're looking at out there for how they're measuring this, how the narrative is moving forward. And my question, as this keeps moving along, now they're talking about food shortages. They're going to be euthanizing. Farmers are starting to speak out now. And so maybe, you know, maybe they did the best they could with what they saw coming, right? And said, hey, this is the right thing. But now we have enough information, right, to say, you know what, we need to open this back up right now. And because all of these side effects of what we tried to do are going to create a tidal wave of real problems from crashing that economy, from doing all these other things. And so
well, the dilemma they face is the making the wrong choice, right? So it must be really, really tough to be in their shoe, unless they already know what's happening behind the scenes. I'm not going to go into that, but if they actually genuinely have to make a decision for the welfare of the people, it's a really hard choice, because it's like they've probably got so many people like on both sides. One person saying, like, let's say about America for now, one state, like one side of the state may be like, we must open up now. And the other person said, but the numbers, that we shouldn't do it. We might kill everyone. And they're probably like getting it from all sides, and they just don't know what to do. And then eventually they cave in. But it's a really tough choice. Now, all I can say is, from a scientific perspective, is look at the evidence of what's happening elsewhere. All right. So you got to look beyond. So Sweden is a good example. Look at Japan. Okay, they don't really have a big incidence of corona. They've fallen quite dramatically, their cases. Look at Vietnam, Cambodia. You know, the number. Let's look at the numbers. Like Thailand it's dropping. Even in England, the cases are starting to go down like that. Why is that? Maybe it's because it's sunny. Maybe because the sun's coming up. So now's a good time, actually, to get the people who are healthy out and about, moving around, and get them moving around, doing exercise, being out in sunlight. They build up some immunity. And let's keep in the people who are at high risk, you know, for a bit until things stabilize. And we know for sure that things like sunlight and all that kills it. This is my opinion. Like, I'm not speaking for the whole world. But this is the kind of things that I think they're talking about doing as a stage way of getting people back. However, like, the idea of waiting for a year or so in lockdown in a house for a vaccine, that I'm a bit skeptical about. Like, when you start coming out with those sorts of ideas, then it really triggers everyone's alarm bells. I think everyone in the whole world would be a little bit freaked out by that prospect. I mean, you would as well, right? It's like the idea that we can't leave at all until we have a vaccine. Now, I think there's so many things we can do before a vaccine is that we wait for a vaccine. Like, when it comes to this coronavirus. And I think that goes for any single thing, like any kind of disease. Like, let's not wait till you have to get a heart surgery done, right? A bypass, to protect your heart. Let's start doing what we need to do today, Do exercise, do the right kind of breathing. We have a course on that. Soma Breath is all about getting healthy so you can prevent things like that. And do yoga, do some exercise every day. If you really hate your job, if you wake up every day unenthusiastic for life, do something about it, make stuff happen. These sorts of things. Now's the time. Now we're in this time where everyone's at home, with nothing to do apart from go within. Go within. Now's the time to go within and question everything that you thought was true until now. About your health, about your life, about the world. Now's the time to really reflect on your truth, to go inward, to go within. And then what you can do is start thinking about what it is you really want in your life. And through that, you can start to seek the right answers and start doing the things that are necessary to get to where you want to be. And it all begins with just taking a bit of time to go within yourself, instead of just, like, for a long time, people have been used to just going to their job, doing everything that the boss tells them, typing into their computer, following instructions, coming home, sticking on The Simpsons, watching the news and eating pizza. That's what a lot of people have been doing on like robots, on a machine, just robotic lifestyle. Now's the time to go, right, it's a crisis situation. What do I do in a crisis? This is what I did. I went inward. I went straight within. And through the deep self-inquiry and being open-minded, my life is completely transformed. I'm now living the most incredible life. Like, even in this time we're in right now, I don't want to say how good it is because it'll make people jealous, but it is. I say I love my life every single day for a reason, right? So, these are the things we can start doing. So that, like, from now, is to really go inward and start thinking for ourselves, have some self-love, Because I'm telling you, we're going through a massive shift and awakening. Through every dark period comes an incredible light. It's the pendulum, man. I really believe in the pendulum, And we are just going to swing from a very dark point to extremely light point soon, right? And those who are prepared to make the shift will swing in that direction in the most beautiful way. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Well, I love all that. And I've actually used that example a few times, just talking about how many people in their life, they have to experience some sort of trauma. Like for you, you were doing the thing, how your life, how you thought you were supposed to do it, and you just hated it. Then you got so sick and you couldn't move anywhere and you were stuck with yourself, and you went in and then figured out, what would I prefer? And you had that journey to get to another side where you're like, I love my life. And you designed that on purpose, deliberately, through thinking, through going in and contributing to other people. That's how you did it. But you had to get your butt kicked, you know what I mean, before you got the memo. You didn't want to get it before that. And so that helped you get to the other side. And it seems like that's what we're getting planetary wide, is we're getting our butt kicked. We're like, oh my goodness, like smokes. And so a lot of people now have that opportunity to kind of look within and do, what you had to do personally in a very traumatic way. And I think if it were business as usual, people wouldn't have that opportunity. And I think that we don't need the entire world to wake up. We need, small pockets of people can do extraordinary things, building things on values, on truth, on who they are, on, what they prefer, because I think that when you get to the other side of who you really want to be, it's always a benefit to other people. And, when you're talking about, like the narrative being pushed forth, I think that's why Bill Gates is getting a hard time, because look at what he's saying. And a lot of people are like, nah, you know, the world doesn't go back to normal until you get 7 billion vaccinated. You know, my FU alarm bells go way up. You know what I mean? And that's just me personally. You know, I'm
Yeah,
going to
whoever did his PR, like they need to be fired. They did a rubbish job of Bill Gates' PR. Like he couldn't be more despised right now.
yeah.
You
And,
know,
you know, and I know
he may have actually really good intentions, but
yeah.
he just did a really bad job of communicating that.
Yeah. And, you know, if you start to look at all these different organizations like Gavi and all these different stuff, it's just like, well, if there is that financial interest there and people are saying, oh, you know, I've had this email to me that's like, oh, well, he doesn't because they're all nonprofits. Well, he's invested in like 6 vaccine companies. And so maybe they are for positive means. But also does this, you know, if even the, it's just kind of backtracking now, but if you look at the flu vaccine, it didn't eliminate the flu. You know what I mean? And so it just doesn't, it doesn't make enough sense. If you look into it and you do your own friggin' research, it does not make enough sense that the world goes back to normal when everybody's vaccine. Like, it, you know, I was like, no, you're not taking away my liberty. You're not telling me how I'm going to control my own friggin' body and how I navigate in this world, you know what I mean? Or what I can and can't say. If I want to say F you with a cherry on top, I can say that, you know what I mean? That is freedom of speech. And so,
but there's one thing which I've never been able to get a good answer from anyone. Maybe you can do it for me, but it's if you have a vaccine that's effective, right, and you get vaccinated, right, surely then it doesn't matter if somebody else isn't vaccinated because you're vaccinated, so you're protected. So why do you care if somebody else isn't vaccinated? Why should it be mandatory then? This is the bit I can't understand. Still, somebody needs to give you a really good answer to that question. It's like, you know, am I completely stupid? They're like, wait, I've got this vaccine. That means that's it. I'm never going to get this disease. So why does it matter if you're not vaccinated? Why am I worried if you're not vaccinated? What, you've chosen not to do it? Fine. But I've chosen to do it. That means I'm not going to get the disease. Why does it matter if you don't? Is there a reason why we need to be forced to do it?
yeah.
Can't it be a choice? With that logic? Am I completely wrong? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is like, that's a common sense question. And that's why when I look, you know, for me, what I started to look like as a young person, I didn't understand how we had war. I didn't understand why we had famine and starvation. You know, we look at the numbers now, and I bring this up often as well. We've got I think it's 8,000 people a day die of hunger-related illnesses, 9 million a year, every year documented. Nobody's said anything about that. How many is the coronavirus taken out? Not even like percentage-wise, 1% of that, 2%, not even, probably 0.5%. But we haven't cared because it hasn't affected us. You know, if we're a global humanity, why is that not a problem? That seems like a much bigger problem to me. You know, just it's a lot bigger. And then you bring
salvation's a big problem.
You know, then we've got common sense. If you have the vaccine, you're wearing the armor. You don't need to worry about it because guess what? I trust my body. That's what I want to do. And if it comes to the point where my body is not cooperating, I need help. I'll go get medical help. But not until I absolutely need it. Thank you, medicine. Thank you, modern medicine. I appreciate you.
But you could have a system where it's like, okay, if you're not vaccinated, you don't get free healthcare for the thing that you should have been vaccinated for. Maybe something like that, a rule.
Sure, yeah, that will bring money back into it. You know, it's just
Like if you choose not to be vaccinated, that means you will not get emergency treatment for whatever disease that you were not vaccinated for. But the person who's vaccinated gets the free treatment. Maybe there needs to be some kind of, I don't know, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know. Well, I know what you're saying, but and then even on that side, because just this one specific example you're bringing up, people with healthy lifestyles, exercise, like someone was brought it up somewhere. It's like you should get because in the States you have to pay for healthcare. If you have a gym membership, you should get a discount on your health insurance, right? Stuff like that. That's common sense. That's why if you look at the healthcare system in the States, there's a very good reason why people call it the sick care system. Look at how everything works. It's designed to make you sick. Staying indoors, being super afraid, taking away your job, not going out in the sunlight, and not being around your friends is a recipe for disease. No doctor will tell you differently if they know common sense and what they studied. What we need is strong, healthy immune systems, and you can do that 6 feet away in the park. But shoot, what were you saying? Because I got sidetracked with that.
No, I'm just saying, like, we could create a system where it doesn't have to be enforced. I think where
Oh
people have
yeah,
a choice. I think
yeah.
there are ways to do this where it's not encroaching on human rights and like becoming like all kind of nasty and kind of like militant. I don't think we can avoid all of that stuff because that's just going to end up messy, man. People are going to, when you step on people's human rights on a big scale, it just never ends very well. So, we can avoid all that by just thinking rationally, like, there should be a choice. Yes, I'm not anti-vaccine at all. You give me a good vaccine that works, it's proven, tried and tested, all of that, I'll take it. But if it's not, and there's skepticism, and there doesn't have to be a lot of it, then I want a choice in what I put into my mouth. Do you know what I mean? I think everyone has a right to that. So I think, yes, there needs to be, I think vaccines are important. There's proof behind it, but it shouldn't be the only thing, and there should be a choice in healthcare. And that should also go for alternatives. So like, if I want to go and see a Reiki person, there shouldn't be a ban on that. Why ban somebody from going to an alternative healer? That sucks. Or why censor it? Why censor the access to that information? It's only going to lead to more problems. Like when you fight fire with fire, it causes more disharmony, more confusion, more aggression, less compliance. It always leads in trouble.
Well, that's one of the things that, I think the fundamental thing is the choice, right? And choice is freedom. The more choices you take away, the less freedom we have. And a lot of the world, people don't understand, they don't have a choice. 3 billion people live with like less than $5.50 a day. Not all the world has a choice. Only some of the world has a choice. This from your travels. And so people in quote unquote free countries who believe the government is looking out for the best of them, and maybe they are, and maybe the media is trying to help them, maybe they are, I definitely don't believe that personally. They couldn't believe that maybe they don't have their best interests in mind. And from my own research and study and clear as day documents, I don't trust them, and I want to trust myself over anything else in this universe. That's my right as a free will being to make stupid choices if I want, because then I learn from those stupid choices. I want that right to be a dummy if I'm a dummy. And I don't want the government to legislate what I do with myself, right? As long as I have a choice, I'm going to fight for that. But not all countries have that choice. They can barely, they're going meal to meal a day, each day, right? And so we need to look at what we're doing as a global humanity. We need to look at, the choices we're making. And anytime the government gets bigger in history, I don't think that's really been a good thing. When the government limits free speech and mandates things, it's usually not for the benefit of the people. If you look at any history book, it's not, it's usually not a quality situation. And I wanted to, kind of bring up something that it made me think about just common sense and double think. Double think from 1984 is when you have this opposing idea. I just rewatched. I read the book and I rewatched the movie, but one of the examples was freedom is slavery. And it's these two opposing ideas that you kind of factor into your brain, and then it just makes sense. And for me, common sense, like the one that you just shared about the vaccines, if you have that armor, what does it matter if I'm carrying it, right? That's common sense. That's not a difficult concept to understand. If you want to make that choice, I'll go ahead, but don't try to make an argument where you want to infringe on my choice, right? I don't even need to know the reasons. You could tell me the reasons, but if I just want to be a sovereign person and make my own choice, is that okay? I want to protect that. I want to maintain that. And that's why we have the Bill of Rights in Canada and whatever it is in the States, I forget right now. That's why they have those things. And number one is freedom of speech, right? And when we start to limit that, we need to question that as a society, because they've tried to do that in the past. I've been to China. China they don't have Facebook. They don't have YouTube. They're terrified to talk about any of these things. That's not good. That is not freedom. What's the level of freedom that you have in your country and your experience? And that's why humanity needs to fight for that. And I think that we need to fight for those people who don't have that, the people who are starving to death. And hopefully, you know, we can extend our compassion on the planet to look at those things, to say, hey, why have we not cared? Oh, this is a big problem. And, you know, they try to say to you like, oh, you're killing everybody by going outside and tell on your neighbors, this kind of crap. Well, what about the bigger problems that if like everyone is like a coronavirus and this is 10,000, maybe you need to kind of like wake up a little bit, question different things, because we have bigger problems than this. And it's kind of opening up, I hope, our worldview on what's actually happening here and creating a massive opportunity for us to come together to work as a global humanity, to really question what we're doing. And if it's based on truth and values and sovereignty and cooperation and kindness and compassion and brotherhood and sisterhood and all that, is it based on all of those good things, you know? And I wanted for you to share, because I thought it was so good, you know, your view of what enlightenment is, because right now, the only reason why I know a lot of this stuff is because I studied hypnosis. I studied psychological manipulation. I'm aware of how this stuff works. So when I see it in the news and media, it's really obvious. If you don't think that this stuff works, do not think of a pink pig. If you think this doesn't work on you, don't imagine a yellow unicorn. If you think that this doesn't work on you, don't imagine getting punched in the face by Mike Tyson, right? You know what I mean?
Just got right jabbed.
Yeah. And so you have these narratives, and I know that you're very careful because you do a lot of research, you know, and I respect you as a human, a friend, a researcher, a wise person, someone who's trying to make a difference. And you have to speak very carefully because you're literally being attacked for sharing a view that might oppose some of the mainstream narrative with legally. That's nuts. That's not okay. That's not it. That's what they do in China. That's what communism is. That's what dictatorship is. That's what tyranny is. And I called out one of my friends on Facebook for saying that. I was like, you're promoting tyranny. He goes, oh, I take offense to that. Well, don't try to talk about free speech. Yes, you know, on the other side, when you talked about charlatans, people shouldn't do that. You know, they shouldn't do that. I agree. But we should also not, you know, when we start to get into censoring it, and especially like who you're censoring, and if that's funded by certain organizations, that's when it gets tricky, because there's just a lot of power centralized. And is that power accountable? Are we aware of all the information that we need to know? Right. And that's why people question things, because they kind of look behind the curtains a little bit. So I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit on, you know, what your view of enlightenment is, because I think it's pretty spot on.
Yeah, I am. So, okay. So enlightenment itself is like a kind of a mysterious term, mystical term. Like not everyone probably, everyone's probably got a different version of what it means. I'm just going to give you mine. So it all comes down to actually this understanding of free will. Is there really such a thing as free will? Okay. Now let's look at the two opposite schools of thought. There's the Eastern school of thought, which is like the Buddhist kind of ideologies and things like that, Eastern mysticism. This is the idea that we are born with no free will at all, and we're just running out conditioned programs. Okay, so these are certain habits and actions and feelings and thoughts and ideas that have to be played out in this life. And we're just like robots, conditioned robots, playing them out. And our early years of our life is where this patterning happens, and therefore we should just surrender to that and go with the flow, right? Curb the enthusiasm, curb the desire, so we do as little harm as possible while we're here. But you know, it's to understand we're just running a bunch of programs throughout our life, and therefore there's no free will. Now the Western ideology, we're talking more like Christian and the you know, Judaism, these more Bible kind of religions. Their perspective is that we're all born with free will. So whatever we choose to do, okay, determines whether we are placed in heaven or hell. And so everything is your fault, okay, basically. So in Buddhism, nothing is your fault. So we should forget everyone, and have absolute compassion. They were just robots. Western one is no, you go to hell. You don't follow these rules, you go to hell. Or if you do follow these rules, you go to heaven, okay? They're the two opposites. Now, the more middle path, the tantric yogic path, okay? The one that I go and follow myself more is this idea that we are, yes, robots, and we're playing out habits and programs and all that. And this programming happened in the first 7 years of your life. However, we can wake up out of this sleeping trance they're all in and see these programs from above and be our own software programmers of our operating system, the mind. Therefore, reprogram ourselves according to our true will, right? Not this conditioned sense of free will. So what we're talking about, these 7 years of life, the moment you're born, you're bombarded with imprint. Actually, in the womb, and then from when you're born until about 7 years of your life, you are imprinted through the TV, through the media, through the friends, family, the teacher, educational system, in the womb even, the emotional state of your mother and all this stuff creates imprints, which are like programs that are ingrained into your operating system and your motherboard, which is your neurology, right? And these are very hard to shift. Like, you know, like even your fear response, like, is really hard. If you go to a movie, right, and they're scary, and try to do your hardest not to flinch at certain moments where it's like the scary part of the movie. It's really hard. Your neurology kicks in way before your conscious mind can, right? Therefore, we're very much conditioned by our imprint and our hardwired programs that are in our DNA and our nervous system. But with these special ancient techniques, that is what we teach in Soma, you can actually go in there using the power of your breath, certain visualization tools, so getting into these very heightened states of emotion. You can actually change the brain itself dramatically through powerful self-hypnotic techniques. We can go in there and repattern old habits. We can reinstall new programs. We can literally, like apps on your mobile phone, create a whole new way of thinking and acting and believing. And through that, your life can dramatically change. What could once been a very predictable life, going down, you know, the 9 to 5, 2.4 children, fat mortgage, you know, never seeing your kids, and then dying, you know, miserable, fat, broken, sick.
Sounds
right?
amazing. Sounds so good.
Yeah, which was actually the life I was heading towards. You can go, whoa, what the fuck? What am I doing? Wake up out of that, shake up the patterns and the habits. Go in there, reprogram yourself. And now I wake up to literally a life of endless summers. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. You know, the sun shines all the time. I have all my best friends working with me in this company, in this community that we've created. You know, I have a beautiful wife. It's just paradise, you know, and I'm so grateful. Like, I wake up enthusiastic to do what I do. You know, I'm living my passion, I'm living it. And it's because I chose to do it. There's a moment we all have where we can wake up and make a decision. I believe in that aspect of free will. There is a moment where we choose which pill to swallow, right? And when you take the right one, okay, you know, I'm not discriminating between red or blue, okay, because it's your choice. Life can change according to your will, your true will. But it takes a lot of deep inquiring and self-realizing and going deep on yourself. Not everyone's prepared to do that work of going within. Right? Now,
yeah, man.
that's enlightenment. That's enlightenment. Is when you wake up and you realize that.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we don't question, you know, our reality. All of those conditions we think are the only conditions, right? That's why children who travel are often smarter, because they see all these different belief systems. You know, we don't question that the family and the culture, right? You might say in Canada, you know, you're a hockey player and you love maple syrup. I don't know. Geez, I'm stereotyping ours so bad. But, you know, this is your religion. This is what your parents believe. This is what's important in life, you know, and your parents always have the best intentions from their experience of, well, 90% anyway, as long as you're lucky. And they just condition you the best way they know how with your surroundings. But is that true for you? And is their truth even true? You know, is
Yeah.
Jesus Christ and you know, Catholicism and all that, is that true? I don't know. Is it Buddhism? I don't know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the purpose of this stuff as well, and really realizing like how programmed we've been, is to create and develop your own sense of forgiveness and compassion for yourself and others, and realize that we're all just trying to figure things out, and most of us are just the product of our circumstance and environment, right? This allows us to have more forgiveness. It doesn't mean we should forget that actually we're all robots too, because sometimes you have to stay away from certain people who are like, they can become crazy and dangerous when their ego gets too worked up, right? So not to forget, but to at least have compassion, forgiveness, more tolerance, less judgment of other people. And because we are really the product of the things we've read, just think of the things that have happened for me and you right now to be talking right now through this computer right now, right? And just think of the stories behind the technology that allows us to do this, and what's their story. And there's so many different stories that have happened in time and space for us to be doing this right now. And how much of that was you really choosing to do this, or how much of that was just circumstance and you know, just imprints and conditions and habits and programs. And it could be one book that changes someone's life completely, you know? Just reading one book. So like through what I try and do is like help people become more self-aware about these things, right? That way we stop judging other people and we start to see both sides of the story, right? And one exercise I like to give people is spend, right, one day where you just listen to right-wing news, all right? If you're not political, it's even better, right? But do it, just listen to like a right-wing news channel for a day. Then the next day, you're only allowed to listen to a left-wing news channel, right? Then you're only allowed to listen to Christian news. Then the next day, you're going to only listen to an atheist news channel, right? And through this, you start to see how the same story can be interpreted in so many different ways based on different belief systems. And then you start to realize, like, who the hell is really right? Who is right? There's so many different ways you can explain the same situation. Right? And then you realize that this world is just a big cosmic joke. No one has any idea what's actually going on.
Oh, well, yeah, that last sentence was the right one, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Nobody really actually knows what's going on. I only know a little bit, and even the stuff that I experienced directly to try to explain what that is and how much do I even understand what happens. It's very, you know, it's a fundamental thing, you know, but we assume all of these things, right? And because we don't want to go against our culture, we don't want to go against our clan. It's really hard, right? Especially religion, right? People don't want to question that because it's their parents, right? They don't want to look at their parents and say, I don't believe what you believe. You know, it's a very hard thing to do, these fundamental core values. A lot of people end up working those jobs that they are not passionate about because their parents wanted a good life for them. They wanted them to go to university, get a good job, but they didn't question if that's how they wanted to live and experience life. And so they don't feel fulfilled and happy because they're not doing it on their own terms. They're doing it from something outside of themselves. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's where meditation and breath work and things like that, self-inquiry, you know, do I believe this? Does this feel good for me? Does this empower me? Does this feel good, right? To be this belief system, right? To be an atheist, to be a Christian, to be, you know, whatever the case is, because there's no right or wrong. If that's what the person believes and that's where their life is taking them, all the power to them. And you'll notice if you do this inquiry that a lot of this is assumed and imposed, right? And even like the right wing versus left wing thing, there's so many double binds in our reality we don't even question. It's a right wing versus left wing. It's like one of these choices. Well, maybe there's a choice beyond that. Maybe there's a whole upgraded system, and right wing and left wing is just the same thing, you know. And that's
Yes.
when you start to question even beyond that. And you know, you go into the Buddha nature of just like not even participating. You know, Alan Watts will talk about sitting on the mountain and watching everybody, you know, do their play, and they're so important in their play because they're playing their character. And you know, he kind of just steps back from that whole thing. I think that the most important thing is just your own inquiry, and as you said, is like, you know, doing what feels good to you by your own decision making and your own thinking and your own values. And if we can get to that space, you know, to really connect to who we are and what we want to do and how we want to contribute, how we want to live. And it starts with those values, I think. What do you value? Because like you said, it's even a Socrates quote, one of the smartest guys ever. I know that I know nothing. You know, that's what the wise man does. And I need to do this video. I've been thinking about it because I've been curious, you know, who on the planet right now should be speaking for planet Earth? What would Socrates be saying? And I know that you've experienced this. I'm experiencing it because I'm speaking out for what I see, because I feel like it's critical times. Socrates was sent to death because he denounced the gods of the day, because he was a critical thinker and was like, you know, that's, you know, I thought about this and it's probably not that. It maybe could be, because I don't know everything, but I don't think it's these things. And, you know, disrupting the youth by getting them.
Kill himself.
Well, yeah, he
You're
got forced.
to
Yeah, he was forced to kill himself for that reason, for denouncing the gods and disrupting the youth, probably getting them to question authority. And if you look at history, look at any history book, not from far away, you need to question authority. And if you think that we're beyond that now in this world that we live in, and you want to believe in the Canadian government, you want to believe in the World Health Organization, you can. I just personally question it. And, you know, I kind of question everything, and I'm open to new information. It's not a right or wrong thing. I'm open to new information because I don't know that much. I am very skeptical of freedoms being taken away. That's what I want. I want freedom, and I want freedom for all people. And I want to learn, and I want to grow in a beautiful environment. And I hope that this allows people to open that up. And I like what you said at the beginning. It's not about a right or wrong or dividing or polarity. It's about an open discussion and understanding everything at its root. And when you're talking about this inquiry, and this is where a lot of this quote unquote waking up happens, when you're trying to find the root of what's going on, you're probably going to go beyond the system. You know, if you go into government and you keep looking beyond that, you're like, oh, is there something that goes beyond government? Oh, what are they talking about now? Secret societies? Is that actually a thing? Oh, why do all of these corporations own so much power? Oh, who are these groups of family, the Rothschilds and Rockefellers? What are their quotes? What do they own? What do they do? How do they influence these things? And you just keep trying to get to the root, and then you step back and you're like, huh, you know, they sure have a lot of influence, and this has been their pattern, but we don't know about that. And so I feel like you need to inquire really deeply, and you need to be able to look past the illusion. And this is, I feel like our society is this big illusion. It's an illusion on Facebook taking our attention. It's an illusion in media, right? It's an illusion of choice, left wing versus right wing. Where's the group of people that are actually working for humanity to create peace and sovereignty and health for all? You know, why isn't the planet working together? I love the idea of Team Earth. You know, everybody working together, all the best scientists, engineers, setting aside the petty differences of beliefs, of skin color. And, you know, it's like, hey, I believe Earth is flat. Great. I believe it's a rectangle. Great. Don't give a crap. You want to work together and make sure everybody's got food, water, shelter, and we, you know, can dance and be happy? Yep. Okay, cool. You know, and why is it you believe that? Oh, cool. And you can do it without judgment, and especially without murder and attack and imposition. And I think that's where this discussion is kind of going globally in this narrative, is this imposing narrative. We must impose this. And some of us are resisting that. So, man, I appreciate you. Do you want to comment on that, or do you want me to throw a question your way?
No, I agree. I agree that we need to, I think we also shouldn't get too caught up in trying to question everything and wasting a lot of our day trying to figure out stuff that is impossible from the position we're in, when you could like learn how to play the guitar, or make a piece of music, or learn how to paint, or do push-ups, or something else with your time that's a bit more healthy for yourself. Because there is a danger of getting so caught up in that land, going down a rabbit hole. And I'm just to blame for this as well, but you know, there's so much we can do with our time to become empowered. I think we need to use our time wisely. Yeah, on this planet.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because the last few weeks I went all the way down, and I think there's a because I want to know what was going on, and I still don't know, and it changes every single day. I see things a little bit differently, but that's such an important thing. And one of those ways to use the time I feel is so important is going in. Right? You got to go in and you got to stop. And even whether it's just nature, you know, you got to take care of your body. And these fundamentals I learned through martial arts are timeless. Mind, body, spirit. Take care of those things to navigate the world, right? If you spend all your time in the conspiracy rabbit hole, if you spend all your time in fear, if you work 80 hours a week and you don't think, it might not be as balanced as you could be. You know, do you wake up and you feel like you're thriving and you're happy and you are free? You know, a lot of the times I don't feel that, and it's usually because I'm forcing so hard in one way. And I can change that through my thinking and through my habits. So I make sure that some of my day I'm working out. Some of my day I'm doing meditation, or I'm just in the forest, right? We need to do those things to disconnect, because where our attention is on this screen and all these rabbit holes could be real, could not be real. But don't do it forever. Do a section of research, then guitar, or then art. All of that's wonderful. Make sure that you're looking at that time and not just putting it one way. If you're just drinking booze in quarantine, you're probably going to get sick. You're going to be a part of that quote unquote second wave that's coming, because you destroyed your body with booze the whole time.
Yeah, I'm sure people did.
Right. So yeah, it's a really great, it's a really important addition. My friend, I appreciate you and your work. Soma Breath is amazing. I like you as an individual, very smart, very intelligent. I know you can go so deep on a lot of these things and blow people's mind. You refrain from that, just kind of keep it, positive, and just, invite the own inquiry and bringing up really great topics. Is there anything that you wish that we had talked about, or you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I think like simple things that we can do together, while you're at home, is what I'm really about, is like embodying some kind of daily practice. So our Soma techniques are pretty successful with the results on helping people to stay balanced and in their flow, right? And it's basically like meditation, like taken up to times 11, right? It's like full power. And it's like getting all the benefits of these like long, boring, like kind of meditations into a shorter period. I know some people find it really hard to meditate all day long. And I don't believe that you need to do that necessarily to get those kinds of benefits you're looking for. That's also fine for the people who want to do that. Like, I'm not knocking any type of meditation, but I'm just saying, I think I figured out a way to meditate that is for people like us who can't sit still, who love to be on the go and do stuff, right? And it's like getting, using the breath with music, we call it this breathing beats technology, to put you into these deep meditative states. So I actually just produced a bunch of new music. I did an album with Wim Hof, like it's on his website, you can check it out. The Wim Hof method, you're probably quite famous for, heard of. I produced a soundtrack to that. And so if you're familiar with things like the Wim Hof method, like it's very similar to what you teach in Pranayama. Pranayama is the ancient Indian school of breathing practice, which is the use of also breathing with meditation. Okay, and one technique out of that's called kumbhaka, breath retention. And when you hold your breath in certain ways for a long enough period of time, you invoke this positive stress on the body. And this positive stress produces this positive chemistry in the body, where you produce like adrenaline with these feel-good hormones and other things that actually cleanses your blood, and it can actually wake up all your blood vessels, improve blood circulation to your brain, into your heart, and give you like a flush of fresh blood to your organs. It's a very cleansing, therapeutic system. And this one daily dose we've created also exercises the lymphatic system, your cerebral spinal fluid, keeps your brain clean, right? All in one exercise, right? So not many people know that just breathe. So you don't, like the most lazy people out there, you can't even do a single push-up. They can all breathe, right? So with this breathing technique, not only do you exercise your cardiovascular system, and you also move your lymphatic system, but you also get all the benefits of meditation, right? And you switch off stress for a moment. You allow, it's like a defrag for your brain. You let the thought files reassemble. You get these moments of clarity, and it's just awesome. Like, you just go try it, all right? We could do a session now. Like, I could play one of the daily doses or one of the tracks to give you a flavor for it, or you can send them to our YouTube channel or our website for it.
Yeah, if you want, I'm so down. Yeah, I've gone through your course. I think it's amazing. I 100% agree. I think adding the breath in, just from my experience being a martial artist and the importance of breath, it's something that I naturally understood, right? Because you're exhausting the body, and you really get familiar with breath when you're exhausted. And I think that the practice is very important. And I can agree with what you're saying about those benefits and those experiences. And the challenge is also with meditation, because you're like, am I doing this? But when you do breath, it's a different experience. It's visceral. And that's why I think it's easy for people to work out, because like, oh, my body's sore. It hurts. I did something. Where meditation, you could sit there and be like, am I doing anything? And what the breath does is it makes you experience something that has the benefits of meditation. It's kind of and you also create those brainwave states, which you can't measure yourself. You kind of measure through how you feel, but if you're to throw a sensor on there like a Muse or whatever, you're creating those brainwave states that allow the defrag of the brain, that give you those benefits, that allow those chemicals that you know about, can explain a lot more in depth than me, but are very good, and it helps you think clear throughout the day. So I'm just affirming what you were saying, and sure, yeah, absolutely, we can do one if you got something.
Yeah, should I play one of my tracks?
Yeah, man.
All right. Okay. So what you want to do, let me just set up this so I can share. Okay, cool. So actually, I'll just talk you through the method to start with. Okay. So the thing with the breath, the breathing is the thing that really affects your physiology faster than anything else, your oxygen, carbon dioxide levels. And not many people know this, but the carbon dioxide levels is really important for you to have a good amount of carbon dioxide, because that allows the oxygen to come off your red blood cells and go to the cells that it needs. So this technique, what it does is it gradually trains you to have more and more carbon dioxide tolerance, okay? Which means you can handle bigger and bigger volumes of carbon dioxide in the system, which allows oxygen to move more efficiently into your cells of your body. So it's like a way of really oxygenating the cells, okay? And carbon dioxide also is a dilator, so it keeps your blood vessels dilated. It works with nitric oxide, it keeps blood vessels, so that helps with your blood pressure and keeps your blood pressure more normal, all right? So this technique's really good for getting oxygen to where it needs to go, okay? That's one thing. And that's why it's good for like self-healing, okay? The other thing with this technique is that with practice, you'll be able to hold your breath for longer and longer. When you hold your breath beyond a certain point, it's called Nishesha Rachaka, right? Which means hold your breath beyond the comfort zone. What that does is it brings the oxygen down for a brief period of time. It's called intermittent hypoxia. Triggers this adaptive response to your body to having less oxygen. You produce more red blood cells, blood vessels dilate, you get more blood flow to your brain, dormant parts of your brain and mind can wake up, enhances neurogenesis, and it does wonders for your memory cells, your brain function, cognitive function, cardiovascular function, your immune system, many other benefits, just from invoking a positive stress on your body, right? And there are other ways to do that too, but the breath is the one very fast, dramatic, easy way to do it. Go into a sauna for like 15 minutes. That intense heat shock will actually help you as well. Go into ice bath, cold ice helps you as well. Same thing, go into extreme temperatures, creates a hormetic response, right? And even in high intensity exercise, like if you hold your breath, do exercise, holding your breath, you're doing anaerobic exercise. It also creates a stress on the body, positive stress. The body adapts. What happens is you become more and more efficient using oxygen. The more efficient you can be at using oxygen, the better you are with your health. Because the more you breathe, the more oxygen you have retained into your system and bound to your red blood cells, the more risk you have of oxidative stress. This is a phrase coined by Helmut Sees, who's a famous biochemist who figured all this stuff out. And basically, he coined the term oxidative stress. He says that while it's very, very impossible, pretty much impossible for us to live without oxygen, it's also very hard for us to live with oxygen because of this problem of oxygen causing like a rusting effect in your body, right? So the less we need to breathe over time, the longer we live. So pranayama actually was a system of different techniques to slow your breathing down to allow you to slow your overall breathing rate to around 4 to 5 breaths per minute. And actually yogis, they studied animals in nature and they found animals that live for long periods of time, like elephants, they have very low breathing rates, like 2 to 4 breaths per minute. Elephants, turtles, things like that. Animals that don't live a very long time, like rats, mice, squirrels, they have much faster breathing rates, like 30, 40 breaths per minute. Humans have this natural ability to consciously control our rate of breath. And we live in between, right? And some people live closer to 100 years, others much less. And you'll notice that the people who have got bad health or under stress, under panic, worry, anxiety, they breathe much faster. And that's because of emotional stress creating the same response in the body as physical stress, the fight and flight response. So, you know, we are like in a stressful situation. We got adrenaline pumping all the time. Our demand for oxygen goes up. It means we overbreathe, but we're not burning all the oxygen. So it stays stuck in our red blood cells. And what that means is that we are causing oxidative stress, and that's causing disease. So using this technique, you actually become more efficient using oxygen. You use that oxygen up, it goes to the right areas. It's like a cardiovascular workout. But it also means that over time, your breathing rate goes down, you become more calm, more clear, you have more focus, and you also get the benefits of meditation, because when you hold your breath with no air, it's like pressing defrag on the hard disk of your brain, because your breath is also linked to your thoughts. This is another thing that they figured out in the yogic system, is the relationship between your breath and thinking. So when you hold your breath with no air in the lungs, right, you kind of seize thought itself and you go into this deep meditative state. And, you know, like with progressive practice, you'll be able to hold your breath 2 minutes, 3 minutes, right? And you actually produce this powerful defrag effect on your thoughts. And you clear the mind of all the clutter. And suddenly, boom, aha moments come out. Inspiration, clarity. You start to think more for yourself. This is what we call the awakening, right, in Soma, the Soma awakening. So we're going to do this technique, all right? We'll do it together.
Okay, how long is it?
We'll do, how long do we got?
I got
11
time.
minutes?
11
Yeah?
minutes? Okay, I'm just going to go pee. I'm going to go pee first.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, hold on.
All right, I'll just set it up.
All right, I'm back.
Cool, man.
That was a great explanation. I've gone through your course and I think it's amazing. And I love how you break that down and what happens in the body as far as, chemically and all that kind of stuff. I know that when I do it, it feels good, but it's interesting to know all the science behind it because it gives you more motivation to continue the practice.
Yeah. And the other thing is the breathing rhythm. So when you breathe in a perfect rhythm, you create this state called coherence. You get optimum blood flow from your heart to your brain. All right. And it feels really good. It balances your nervous system. And when you breathe in certain rhythms, so when you breathe out twice as many times as you breathe in, you stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. You create a rest and digest response in the body. Parasympathetic is the healing response. So in this track you're going to do today, it's a really one designed for relaxation and reduce the stress, putting on the rest and digest mode. You're going to feel really relaxed. So imagine how you feel right now, and then observe how you change afterwards. I'm going to ask you like how you feel afterwards, right? And just be mindful of it. So you're going to be breathing in for 2 beats, out for 4 beats. Okay, you're going to follow along with the music. It's all guided. And then there'll be a point where you take a deep breath in and you breathe out. Actually, in this track, you're going to make a tone. Om. And when you make an Om, a tone, what you're doing is you're actually activating the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is connected to your autonomic nervous system. And through this, you calm down the nervous system completely. And you bring tranquility to the nervous system. Om is a very powerful, there's a whole another, we could do a whole call just on the power of Om. It has a lot of different benefits. And then when you get to the end of your Om, you're going to hold your breath on the exhale for as long as you can. Okay? And when you can't hold it in longer, you can take a little sip in, blow the air out, and hold it again for as long as you can. And then when you start to feel this urge to breathe, you can count down in your head like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That will allow you to hold your breath even longer, right? Then when you get that really big rush feeling, you then take a deep breath in and you hold your breath in, okay? And you pull up the pelvic floor, the muscles around your sphincter, you pull them up, draw it up, you're drawing up the energy, scrub your forehead a bit and hold on the inhale, all right? And then again, you release with a tone. And that completes the cycle. But it's all guided.
The only thing that was confusing is scrub your forehead. What does that mean?
Screw up your forehead like this.
Like scrunch it?
Yeah, like this. So you imagine you're sending energy to your third eye. Your podcast was Third Eye Drops, right?
No, that's a different one.
No, that's another one. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry.
But that guy, I've had people say I look like that guy.
You do. You do look a bit like that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But but you imagine you're sending it to your third eye.
Okay.
Yeah. And that will wake up the power of the third eye.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. I'll put myself on mute and I'll I'll listen to the track and go through.
Yeah, we'll do it together.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to share the computer sound. And
I can hear my daughter. She's going nuts upstairs for some breakfast.
Oops. All right. Okay, well, a little bit of time to meditate first. You got it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. You hear it?
Lie down on your back in a comfortable position.
You can do this standing up.
With the arms by your side.
Sitting up, not standing.
Where you'll not be disturbed. Bring your awareness to the area in your body that needs healing. And give this area a color. Maybe dull, dark color. And as you breathe in a rhythm, imagine you're breathing out this color and turning it into a bright white light. That's right. Now bring your awareness to your breath. and get ready to breathe in a rhythm. And as you breathe in and out, imagine every single cell of your body is becoming aligned with the highest power of the healing white light. That's right. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. 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 In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4.
Imagine that you are bringing in this healing white light to heal, nourish, rejuvenate, and elevate the health of every single cell in your body. And you can direct this light as you breathe it in to remove any blockage, any limiting belief, any negative trapped emotion you may be experiencing right now, that's holding you back from getting exactly what it is that you want in your life.
In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. 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 In, 2, out, 2, 3.
Imagining
In, 2,
as you breathe, you're channeling this light
in,
to heal and nourish and rejuvenate.
2, 3, 4. In, 2, out,
Turning any darkness into light.
in, 2,
That's
out,
right.
2, 3, 4. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4.
That's right. Keep breathing, keep connecting to that rhythm.
2, 3, 4.
Feeling yourself getting more and more relaxed with every breath you take.
3, 4. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, out, 2, 3, 4.
This breathing pattern has been shown scientifically to switch off the stress in the body and to bring you into a deep healing bliss state. This is known as your rest and digest, or the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is where the magic lies, in the realms of your subconscious mind.
Out, 2, 3, 4.
In this state of deep meditation, you can reprogram your thoughts. You can elevate the health of your cells by commanding them to grow stronger, healthier, more alive.
Out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 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 out, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 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 out, 2, 3, 4. Now fully in, hold, squeeze, and make a toe.
Hold your breath and hold it as long as it feels comfortable.
When you can't hold it any longer, fully in, squeeze, and let out a tone. Hold your breath.
So as you hold your breath, repeat these words in your mind as a mantra so that they reprogram your unconscious mind and the DNA of your architecture to a heightened, elevated state of health and well-being. I am whole, perfect, strong, loving, harmonious, and happy. I am whole, perfect, strong, loving, harmonious, and happy. I am whole, perfect, strong, loving, harmonious, and happy.
When you can't hold your breath any longer, just fully in, squeeze, and gently let go with a sigh of good feelings. That's right. Much love and positive energy for the day ahead. Peace.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
I love you, brother. That was good. I'm still, still feeling the good vibes.
Feeling blissed.
It works. It's good stuff, man. You know, it's really good stuff, and it's all, power of the body, power of your own internal factory, and the beautiful power of the body. And it's these experiences, like just that 10 minutes, if someone's never done that before, or meditation practices or whatever the case, when it's visceral. And that's why I like the breath, because it's visceral. You can feel it, and you can get into those states pretty darn easily. And this is what you're talking about. This is what Wim Hof is talking about. This is what people who have gone through the journey of self-mastery, the yogis, saying, hey, you are an infinitely powerful being. And as long as we connect to Facebook and news trying to scare the crap out of us and all these external fears, it kind of takes away from that internal power. But when you go into this space and you can go in there consistently, you start to have more and more faith with how powerful you are and how connected you are to a bigger picture, to a bigger force. And I'm all about that bigger force. So
you got it, brother.
Man, that's wonderful. Anything you want to add about that? That was awesome.
Just do it every day, man. We have these tracks. We got several of these on YouTube, different music. It's all music I made myself. Different rhythms, different effects. And they're really great ways for you just to get a good buzz from the comfort of your own chair. And actually, we're releasing an app soon called Chair Guru for people who spend too much time in the chairs and want to get a bit of exercise. And we've combined breathing techniques into that. It's going to come out soon. The Soma Breath is actually a resource. We got a lot of information on breath. You learn about the real role of things like oxygen and your carbon dioxide, how they work together, the harmony between the two that we need to create, and how to use different breathing patterns to influence your physiological state, and the way music makes the whole process more fun and effortless. So loads of good information there on the site, and with real evidence to back it up. It's not just like hocus pocus stuff that we're pulling off different places. Now, these are like, I work with doctors, I work with people who have done like peer-reviewed research themselves, and so I've got some really compelling research together around the power of the breath for self-healing, because I think it's super important. It's the one thing they can't take away, man. And they may try and ban breathing one day, who knows?
Just no deep breathing. now in California, you have the mask, so.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate you, man. I invite everybody to check out the Soma Breath course. It is phenomenal. We'll link it up there so people can check it out. But, there's a lot more people talking about breath these days because it's powerful. It works. It's ancient. And now we're bringing in some science, and you're definitely one of those pioneers championing that and bringing more research and building community around it. And then ultimately building community around empowerment. Exercising our own free will and creating in this world how we see fit as free will sovereign beings capable of fending off viruses and other things.
Free thinkers thinking.
What's that?
The free thinkers thinking.
Yeah, man, and that's it. And we are powerful beings, and there's enough evidence for that. So, but we got to learn how to use our bodies and how they work. And this is one of those incredible tools. So thank you for...
Well, the mind and body are one mind, one body, let me give you a little anecdote here. So we evolved, from single cell organisms that were fed up of fighting with each other. Over time, they would multiply, they'd take up resources, they'd compete with each other, and one would collapse, the other one would win, and then the other one would win and the other one would collapse. And we were just with all these tiny cell organisms fighting all the time, warring with each other. Then one day they got fed up with it, and two cells came together on the foundations of trust, love, compassion, and cooperation, right? And not competition. And that created a multicellular organism. That eventually led to the evolution of humans. In fact, this little process happens every time you're in the womb, when you're being born, right? Before you're born, you are actually cells dividing, rapid dividing, and forming multicellular organism that's you. And each cell comes together on the basis, the foundation, the same basis of love, trust, connection, communication, cooperation, right? And that is actually our truth, okay? So what happens when you see the world in terms of competition, in terms of hate, you hate everyone around you, you fear them, you're threatened by them, when you see the world as untrustworthy, everyone's out to get you, you get paranoid, when you don't cooperate anymore, when you retract, okay, all of this leads to confused cells, consciousness. And that leads to then these cells attacking each other's, and that leads to disharmony and degeneration of cells, disease, right? And autoimmune disease. That's why so many autoimmune diseases can be healed through love and compassion and self-love and going back into the past and making peace with your past. So many people get transformed just from that. And so that's the one thing that we'd share with Soma as a community, is like looking at everyone and the universe as your friend, and the universe is conspiring to help us. And when we start changing our perception of the world, when we look at actually there's more people out there who are together on the foundations of love, trust, connection, communication, cooperation, the stronger the bond and harmony becomes between each other, we get stronger. Okay? And right now, you know, they may keep us apart, but they can't break our spirit. And we can carry on this connection through this medium here. Okay? And when we get back out, we must not look at each other as a diseased enemy and vindicate Chinese people because they potentially started this, or, you know, anyone who is political and doesn't like your politician, we shouldn't suddenly hate them for having opposing views. We need to have like compassion. We've got to cooperate. If we're going to do anything successfully, we must come together in order to clear the darkness and bring in the light. The new age must be one of light, and we must bring that harmony together. Because when that's gone, then we lost the power. Yeah. So we've got to remember that true healing, true health is wealth. And that is only, and this goes for every single doctor, pharmacist who's fed up with their job right now, who hates doing what they're doing. The only way to change that, stop yourself getting sick, is to go within and actually start to question, what is it that you're doing, and can you actually do something better for your patients? Same thing with politicians. Politicians, if they're waking up every day going, oh, fuck, I don't want to go in front of the armed paparazzi, you know, with all these cameras who are going to interrogate me and hate me and make me look like an arsehole for anything they say. If you hate doing your job right now, then you need to start questioning why you're doing that. That journalist who gets up every day, wakes up to go and narrate some bullshit story that they know is not true, that they're forced to do because that's just the agenda of the newspaper. They're getting paid to do that. And you're waking up and you go, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing this? And you go there and you put on the makeup and you act there and you're an actor and acting. Look, if you keep doing that, you're going to get sick. So why not do something about it now? Like, look within and think, am I doing the best that I can as a human? Am I really serving other people the way that I can be doing the best of my abilities? If the answer's no, do something about it. Because the moment you start to do something about that, then we'll enter into an age of enlightenment, utopia. and harmony. And then this world will be the most incredible, magical, incredible place for all of us to live in harmony, and we'll solve all the problems. It's only going to be when people stop numbing the pain of their existence with pharmaceuticals and drugs and computer games and, you know, and distractions and alcohol and all that, TV. When we stop numbing the pain, we call this the external somas. When we find the soma within, which is the truth of why we're here, our being, our true will, our true destiny, our true purpose, which is to bring love, trust, connection, community, cooperation, because that's how all our cells came together. When we understand that, when we understand what really makes us healthy, we'll understand how to be good people in this world and create an amazing utopian heavenly place for all. If we don't do that, then there's going to be people who do that, and they're going to be super healthy, they're going to thrive, they're going to live the most incredible life on this planet, because the world's only going to swing like this, a pendulum, but others are going to stay in the darkness, and they're going to hate their job, and nothing's going to change for them. So if you want to get in, I might sound like a crazy Christian missionary right now, but I'm telling you right now, there is something about this that I'm talking about, that's truth, that's light, there's light in the world. Just look for it, and all it takes is simple steps. What can I do to make my job a little bit happier and better and more worthwhile? And then boom, that's it, the change happens. That's it.
I love all that, man. I absolutely agree. And I think it's that fundamental shift between competition to collaboration. And, you know, that's where I don't like the narrative that's being, I think, pushed towards us. It's, you know, everybody is now diseased. You know what I mean? Be more afraid of people. That to me is a dangerous narrative, much more than, you know, much more than, you know, the virus. To me, anyway, that's my own perception. Be nervous. And now we have this idea of telling on, you know, now tell on people. That's what they did in Nazi Germany. You know what I mean? Those are two ideas that don't align with cooperation. They don't align with sovereignty. They don't align with creating a better world. And if we are going to create a better world, we have to do it together. And we have to do it with compassion and understanding and non-judgment and cooperation toward higher ideals that work for everyone, that, you know, that just work for everybody and that are based in real values and real truth. And so I agree with 100% of everything that you just said. And I do think that this is a catalyst and an opportunity for us to really come together as a humanity in a way that we never have. And I hope that that's how we respond. You know, I don't think I'm sure lots of great quotes on this, but it's not what happens to us that dictates our life. It's how we respond to it. And this is a great catalyst for us to come together and to respond and create humanity in a world that we are proud of and that we want to pass on to our kids and use this as something for good. So we have that opportunity now, and it's up to each of us to take it. So thank you for your work and for who you are and for everything you're doing, man. I have tons of love and respect for you. I'm sure we're going to stay connected. And yeah, I definitely recommend if people check out the Soma course in that community, really beautiful community, and just deep respect.
Much love, bro. You're amazing.
Thanks, homie. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Awesome.
See you soon. Peace.